So I'm starting off with the Sempertex brand Fashion Red balloons in 18 inches. I will post the site where I purchased these balloons in the description box below this video. I'm blowing up 2 at a time, and I'm going to underinflate the balloons to between 16 and 17 inches, rounding them out. Then I'm going to tie them together into a dupe. Then I'm going to take 2 more 18-inch balloons, and I'm going to underinflate one of the balloons to about 13 or 14 inches, and then underinflate the other balloon to about 16, 17 inches, and then tie the 2 balloons together into a dupe. Then I'm going to take 2 11-inch balloons, and I'm going to blow them up and then underinflate them to about 10 inches and then tie them together into dupes. I'm going to take 2 more 11-inch balloons and do the same thing. Then I'm going to twist all 4 of my dupes together into a cluster. When twisting your dupes into a cluster, you want to make sure that you double twist the balloons so that the clusters are nice and secure and none of the dupes pop out. So this is Sempertex Fashion Black balloons, and I did the same thing with these balloons as I did with the red ones. Created 4 dupes of balloons and twisted them together into clusters. And this is Sempertex brand Reflex Gold. Now these are all 11-inch balloons that I underinflated to 10 inches, and I twisted them together in clusters of 2 dupes. So now I'm going to take these 260 balloons, the long stretchy balloons that you make balloon animals out of, and I'm going to tie the ends together. And the reason why I'm using white balloons is because that is the color I have on hand. You can use the same color as the balloons that you are using. In fact, I would suggest you do that. But this is a tutorial, so this is not for an actual event. This is just a tutorial, so I'm just using the white 260s. So I'm going to take my 260 rubber band. I'm going to wrap it around 2 balloons in one cluster. And then I'm going to take that same 260 and wrap it around a couple balloons in another cluster. And this is how I'm connecting my clusters together. Now, right now I am making my balloon garland base, and I'm going to be using the red and black balloons to make my balloon garland base. I will be adding on my gold clusters later. Now, if you want to, you can use actual rubber bands to connect your clusters together. I like using the 260s because I feel like they are more elastic and you can fit more balloons inside of them. Now, one thing I wanted to note is that each of these clusters are about 2 feet in length. And when measuring for my backdrop, I'll take the feet of my backdrop and I'll add an extra 2 feet, because sometimes when you put the balloons on the backdrop, they kind of bend left to right and you lose some of the length of the balloon garland. So at 2 feet per cluster, 4 clusters equals 8 feet, and this is a 6-foot backdrop, and I'm going to show you how 8 feet of balloon garland looks up against a 6 feet high backdrop. So you see it's just right, it feels just perfect. So now I'm going to take another 260 balloon, tie the ends together to make the rubber band, get a backdrop clip, put the 260 in there, and then clip that onto the backdrop. And this is how I'm going to attach my balloon garland to the backdrop. I'm going to do that at 3 points, at the very bottom and at the top. Now I'm going to be adding my gold clusters. So I'm going to take a 260, tie one end to the gold cluster, and then wrap the other end of the 260 around a couple balloons in the pre-existing balloon garland, and then tie the 260 into itself to add on my clusters. So I'm going to add 1 gold cluster there at the bottom. Then I'm going to go to the opposite side in the middle of the cluster and add that gold cluster right there to the middle. And then I'm going to add a gold cluster to the very top on the opposite side. So I just alternated sides and added one at the bottom, the middle, and the top. And now I'm going to add another cluster, and I'm just going to twist it in. I'm not going to use a 260. I'm saving material. I'm just going to twist it into the bottom because I want my bottom to be a little thicker, to stretch out a little bit more. And now I'm just going to rearrange my clusters so that they sit nice on each other and the fit looks good. And now that I've added my fillers, I'm going to add my 5-inch decorators. So I'm going to do 2 pumps per balloon with my manual pump, tie the balloons into dupes, and then I'm going to take 2 dupes and twist it together into a cluster. Then I'm going to take half of a 260 to save on material and tie one end around one of the clusters, and then tie the other end around one balloon in the balloon garland. And I'm going to tie that 260 into itself. And so I'm adding 1 5-inch cluster per big cluster. Now, once I add these clusters, I will rearrange them to get them to look the way that I want them to look. And this is what the finished product looks like. I actually added some balloon shine to restore the shininess to the balloon garland. So I wanted to show you guys how this same garland looks on a different frame. So I decided to use my arch frame backdrop. So here's my frame with the fabric cover. Now I got this frame from Fashion and Fascinating, but I've also gotten these same arch frames from eFavorMart. So as you can see, I took the balloon garland and I slid it onto the side of the frame. So the balloon garland is hugging onto the frame. You can use backdrop clips, and especially if this is outdoors, I would suggest using backdrop clips to make sure that the balloon garland is secure on the frame. So now I'm just rearranging the balloons to cover up gaps. Since I used 260s to attach the 5-inch decorators as well as the clusters, it's easy for me to maneuver the clusters around to cover up the gaps. I'm trying to cover up that gap at the bottom. I will eventually do that, but this took me about 5 minutes to do. So here's the finished product, taking the same balloon garland and using it on an arch frame. I used a total of 76 balloons, 28 5-inch balloons, 32 11-inch balloons, and 16 18-inch balloons. And here's how they look side by side. So if you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, go ahead on and like it, and please subscribe, and you'll get notifications on future videos on balloon and event decor. And until next time, I'll see you guys later.